Welcome everybody to episode 7 of the Integrate Live virtual workshop. I'm Jeff Nepper, joined by my buddy, my confidant, my co-founder, Alan Ray. Alan, how are you today, bud?
Doing good, Jeff. How you doing, man? Did you have a good week at ICC 10?
Oh my gosh, I'm still trying to catch up from way too little sleep. Oh,
That night going to 2 a.m. on was that Thursday night?
Wednesday night.
That Wednesday night.
Awesome. Hanging out on the back patio, late night, unexpected. But it was great. And
It was a good time.
you can see I'm rocking my ICC X shirt today. So that was obviously just a great week. And some really cool things that we'll talk about maybe in the rundown and we'll talk about in future episodes. But Alan, today, I'm not nervous, right? Like we don't ever get nervous about this because it's live and we're doing things and things can always go wrong. But today might be the largest project that we've tried to bite off in a live demo. And so I think we should jump into it because we're going to need, frankly, all of the hour and a half today.
Yep.
Cool. Well, let's do it. Folks, as you know, you registered. Today, we are going from plant floor to enterprise. It's all about better decision-making by not leaving data behind. What's that mean? It means going after some of the really weird one-offs, the old legacy kind of stuff, the hard stuff, the stuff that you're not naturally capturing in your manufacturing environments and finding value in that. And we're joined by the Avancion team, the Software Toolbox team, and the Flow Software team. Let's get some introductions underway. Matt Coleman, welcome. Thank you for being here. Matt is an absolute data nerd, right? Like you come to work every day and geek out over this kind of stuff. Excited to have you here, excited to learn more about what Avancion does and how you help people go from just data to actual insightful information for decision support. Thanks for being here, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian Walsh, Senior Engineer and Project Lead. Ian, if I take those two titles, engineer and actual like project lead manager, I think ultimately not only do you color order your socks, I think you like steam press them at exactly 213.5 degrees. Is that accurate?
Got to keep things in order, you know?
Absolutely. Super detailed. Glad to have you here, Ian. And Matt Ruth, President of Avancion. I know for a fact that Matt works way too much, is always in his job, but Matt, if you get a couple hours off a month, are you out fishing? Is that your passion?
That's my passion. It's great to be on the boat.
That's awesome. And what's the biggest fish you ever caught?
I think it's like a 9-inch trout. I like to fish, but I didn't say that I was good at it.
Yeah, that's great.
I catch more clam shells than I catch anything else. So that's some reason I'm not doing something right.
That's great.
Having me.
Sounds like you're extremely good in the process world and very adequate as a fisherman.
Jeff is adequate. Yeah, that's a stretch. The adequate part in fishing. Yep.
Jeff, speaking of not being very good, my first job, I worked at a bank. I
Yeah.
got fired because the woman came in and asked me to check her balance. Turned out she didn't have very good balance.
Are we doing fire jokes today? Because I've got lots of I used to work and got fired. Actually, you didn't know this about me, but I got my start in automation at a citrus juice processing plant. I got fired because I couldn't concentrate. All right, Avancion, take us through the tech stack today and the folks that are with us, please.
Yeah, we're really excited to be joined by a great group of tech panel here and some folks that are going to show us some really cool stuff. The first one is Leonard Smith. Lenny's from Flow Software. He's a customer success manager. He's got all kinds of mad skills about figuring how to unlock the data and create information and wisdom from that data that's entombed inside the OT layer. For fun, I don't know if everybody knows, but he's a South African and he enjoys taming lions while he's on safari. So he's
or at the mall, right, Lenny?
Yeah, exactly. Wherever in his
they
backyard. I
in my
think it
backyard.
gets
You know what they
better.
say? The lions walk in the streets here in Africa. So yeah, we need to be prepared, man.
So awesome. Welcome, Lenny.
Thanks, Matt.
And next is Kevin Rutherford. Kevin Rutherford is a technical consultant and communications project manager for Software Toolbox. He's worked with thousands of people over his career to help figure out how to integrate and connect all sort of OT devices. Some of them standard things, and then a whole bunch of really weird applications to get that industrial connection and overcome automation challenges. So in his free time, him and his wife enjoy the outdoors, and they have a bunch of animals. It's a life that even like Dr. Doolittle would envy. So this is Ken.
Thanks, Matt. Speaking of animals, we have a couple of horses. I was actually talking to my horses the other day. Yes, I talked to my horses, and subject came up. We're purely a PC house with respect to the computers we use, of course. So I found out that guess what kind of computers my horses prefer? Apple, of course. So got to keep those guys out in the barn. I'm telling you.
We're going to need an extra hour of demo time if the demo takes as long as Kevin's joke lead ups.
Yeah, I'm no comic, I tell you.
You can say that again.
But he's a good karaoke singer.
There you go.
And then next on the lineup here is Win Worrell. Win's the sales director for a Software Toolbox, and he's really been focused on a whole bunch of different roles there throughout the course of time, technical support and now sales, and it lets him feed the two things he's most favored of in the work world, which is digital transformation, data, and talking to people. And so when he's not focused in on the software box of tools, he enjoys reenacting dad jokes with his wife and his two sons.
Hey, Matt, have you heard this one? A screwdriver rolls into a bar, and the bartender says, "Hey, man, we got a drink named after you." And the screwdriver's like, "Wow, you got a drink named Philip?"
That's awesome.
When do you
And
know
then
what?
last but not least, we've got John Weber. So John Weber is the founder of Software Toolbox. He's a techie at heart. So but he's a child of the 80s. So he grew up trying to hack in and figure out how to beat up a Trash 80 and a Commodore 64, for those of you that know what those are. John's a system engineer at heart, and he really channels those 30 years that he's been doing this gig in this industry to get his hands dirty and roll up his sleeves on the technology, all for figuring out how to do the best thing for the customer. So he brings that passion into Software Toolbox, which is really awesome. But when he's not on the job, he's always busy traveling around the world and taking awesome photographs of all those trips that he takes. That's John.
Yep, and I have mastered my running from the lions, but more importantly, the elephants in South Africa. But, did you hear about the time the sandwich walked into the bar? Bartender said, "Hey, we don't serve food here."
It's a lot of bar jokes today. Is there a theme going on?
I don't know, but we got a lot to cover, so we better keep moving.
All right. Well, guys, everybody, thank you for being here. Welcome. And Alan and I are always just absolutely blown away by the support that we get, not just from our vendors, from the integrators, but ultimately the men and women that are part of this community. Where the rubber meets the road, the engineers, the software developers, the folks that are out there solving problems every day. And we're super grateful to have you here today. Alan, remember back a year ago when we talked about forming this? It was very clear we had a mission: align end users, integrators, and vendors, and bring them together around some common threads. What were they? What are they?
We ultimately we want to be aligned with openness. We want to make sure that we are not just a community that is open to ideas, but we're also open to sharing techniques and procedures and processes, and even all the way down to tools that we've created to help each other really not just impact the companies, but the individual. So the individual grows also.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second pillar
Oh, I got to click something. Is learning to click a
is
PowerPoint.
transparency. And again, that ties right into being open, right? We don't just want to share. We don't want to be a part of each other's success stories, but we want to be transparent when we don't have the answer, and be able to not just say, hey, I'm not sure, but you know, can I get some help? And so that has been a really the fuel that has enabled my career, right? That being transparent, being willing to say I don't know and look for help, and so we want to be that with each other. And ultimately, humility has to be that thread that runs through all of it. And if we're humble and willing to help each other, to be transparent, then we will build something here that is sustainable and ultimately add value to each other.
That's what we aspire to be. It's who we want to be, and it's what we're trying to build. And we thank you all for being a part of it. Vendors, we're always looking for more sponsorship. We're always looking for more alignment, and we want to help you.
Not just vendors either. And I know that other integrators and people who want to be a part of this, right? We want to build a community here.
That's right. Absolutely. So to that end, if you have not signed up on the actual community, integratelive.com, please do it right now. I can wait for 30 seconds while you go do that.
We don't got 30 seconds, Jeff.
All right, let's go. Business use case time. Avancion team, we've got a problem. Will you walk us through it, please?
Yeah, this is something that I think we see every day as an integrator, and Matt, Ian, and I wrestle with this all the time. And so what we're seeing a ton of is there's a big challenge today in manufacturing plants with being able to connect all the data off the plant floor and then get it up and into a position to be used by the business, not just for data's sake, but for really kind of wisdom and understanding on how to improve their operations. It's a pretty big and hairy problem. It's got a bunch of complexity to it and a number of challenges. And I'd like Ian's going to take the shot at explaining some of the challenges we see that was set up for today.
Yep. Thanks, Matt. I was actually a little taken back from an interaction I had this morning. My roommate had asked me if I'd seen the dog bowl. I was like shocked. I didn't know he could. Regardless, we do have a few challenges we're trying to tackle here today. First one being, if we think about the automation pyramid, at that first layer there's a lot of devices, and we can often think of them as data silos or islands. And oftentimes these islands have docks already built for us to go land at, and we can use standard industrial protocols to talk to them. It's not always the case. And that first challenge really is, how are we going to be able to communicate with some of these siloed, old, and uncommon equipments without having to do a bunch of work around heavy lifting and creating our own code? Now, once we got that, the next challenge is moving that data from the OT layer up into the IT environment so that we can actually use it in some fashion. It's often a challenge getting the correct configurations around the firewall and DMZ. So we really need to find a simple solution to say, we got data here, let's bring it over here. And while following general best practices, making sure IT stays happy and we're keeping everything secure. Now that we've moved it up, our final challenge is actually utilizing that data. So it often comes in many forms and flavors. So we'll need to be able to clean it up, parse it, and get it ready to be used for analytics, generating reports and dashboards, so the correct decision makers can utilize them for making those key decisions. And so I'll let Matt now cover some of the technologies that we can use to help us solve these problems.
Thanks, Ian. So I'll start it off with a dad joke because I haven't gotten a chance to do one yet. But did you guys hear about the king who was exactly 12 inches tall? He was a great ruler. He was a great ruler. So
well done.
Yeah, you could use that one too. So I'm going to introduce you to the tech stack here, like a very high level introduction to the tech stack. But, as Ian mentioned, the challenges we face around accessing data and preparing it for consumption can be roadblocks for us when we're trying to build our analytics solutions. So Software Toolbox and Flow have created tools that make it easier for us to do that. On the data connectivity side, we have Omni Server and Data Hub that assist us as an analytics practice in connecting to disparate devices on the plant floor. So you'll learn about some examples of that. And then we have Flow that kind of helps us provide useful insights to our customers using dashboards, KPIs, and other metrics. So that's kind of the high level overview of the tech stack. I'm going to let John kind of jump in here and give you a little bit more of a deeper dive into the software toolbox and flow tools, and give you a little bit more of an explanation of how they work.
Great. Well, thanks, Matt, and Ian. We've heard from SIs and users that it's harder than ever to get competent vendor technical help in the internet-based sales world. We've heard it's frustrating to not be able to talk about the pros and cons of multiple solutions without feeling like somebody's just trying to sell you their one solution. That's because that's all they have. When I started this company in 1996, I wanted to change how software was bought, specifically third-party plugins and add-ons. And since day one, our approach has been different than other folks. The thing our customers tell us they like the most is that we answer the phone with humans who are technical staff focused on solving problems. Those humans look for multiple ways to approach the problem and are happy to discuss the pros and cons, and they'll tell you if we can't help. We may even point you somewhere else if we know somebody who does have a solution instead of trying to force fit a solution to the problem.
That's huge.
And yeah, it is. People are sometimes shocked when that happens, but we're in this for the long game.
John, what's your average return time if somebody was to call you?
Oh, it's well, first of all, a human answers the phone. So they're not going to go into, if they get into voicemail, we're having an exceptionally busy day. If they email us, it's it's a PKPI and it's 35 minutes, and that's response by a human, not a bot. And then on our chat, it's a minute or so.
Wow.
We appreciate that as an integrator. Obviously, we work on an hours for dollars kind of world sometimes, and that those minutes and seconds and the access is really important to us, and the not running us down a rabbit hole.
Exactly, and we know that you can have a profitable project and get to field commissioning, and it can turn into a huge loss if your suppliers aren't responsive.
Tell me about it.
Yep. So. The last piece is the software is always available for download, and those same people that you talked with about options are there to help you set up a proof of concept and get things going, because ultimately we want it all to work. So, enough of that. Let's get into the tech stack a little bit more, and then we got to get going. We've got some building to do. So looking at the problem that Advancion has brought to the table today, we believe OmniServer will be a good fit here because they have several devices that have specific protocols, and none of them are standard things like Modbus. And as they said, there's no appetite for writing custom code. So OmniServer is a no-code OPC server for serial Ethernet, USB, even serial to Ethernet devices. Typically, you get a manual with the device, with the protocol, and you write code. Well, with OmniServer, we're going to build that configuration visually, connect it to the three devices, as Dancian mentioned, and have a OPC UA server ready to go. You'll see a lot from Kevin, but I want to quickly go over the how. So, as I said, you start with the protocol manual that has what a lot of people say looks like a bunch of gobbledygook. I know when I started in my career, somebody showed me this. I said, what in the world is that? So we take that, and then in a visual editor, we configure the protocol, which Kevin's going to do. Then we set up your physical connections to the devices. Then we marry that protocol you've built, which is reusable, to the device connection, whether that's serial or Ethernet, and then connect the client application. We'll be doing plenty of this live, so you'll get to see plenty of the details then. So the other piece of the stack is the transport of the data via the DMZ and proxies if you had those. We're proposing Data Hub because it can support a variety of data types you see here, including the OPC UA data we'll get from OmniServer, but a wide range of other sources and destinations. More importantly, we can have a choice of a variety of ways of transporting the data, including MQTT Sparkplug, which I believe, Advancion, you said there was a client preference for that technology?
Yes, definitely. It's super popular when it comes to trying to connect to IoT devices. So we've done a few in using
Okay.
temperature and humidity sensors distributed around a plant, and it's a great way to get them all connected and pulling in that data.
Okay. Well, we'll go down that route. And then, if you come back for rundown next week, folks, maybe we can talk about some of the other ways to do it. But today is going to be MQTT Sparkplug. So Wynn's going to be configuring the data hub to transport the data on machines that have all inbound firewall ports closed. Except when we show the architecture, we do have a remote desktop port open for connecting into the machine that is here near me for configuration, and then nothing on the IT side, and only single ports open in the DMZ layer. And we'll show you an architecture of that in a minute, but now let's move on to the last layer, which is flow. So if you saw episode 4, you learned along with us that there are 5 critical elements to building an enterprise level analytics hub. You need to create an information model, send that model down to the OT layer so your sites can connect to their IO, then transform those siloed data sources into information that you can take action from. You use visualizations to share that information with people and bridges to share that information back to the sources, as well as to other analytics tools, machine learning platforms, cloud solutions, etc. So again, in episode 4, Lenny covered how Flow connects to time series and relational data sources, but today we're focused on the real-time sources. In fact, you'll get to see the Flow real-time buffer used to take the data feeds coming from the data hub securely across that DMZ and contextualize them in several ways. Of course, everything that is built will be available, but not held captive. Principles integrate live is everything needs to be open. So remember, we always want to make what we build in a system available and open for consumption back at the source or out to other applications via web API or other standard query means. So next I want to hand it over to Lenny.
Cool, thanks, John. So obviously we can now visualize this data that we're transforming into information. And I think rather than showing the pretty graphics, it's important to understand what type of analytics you want to go and apply to the information here. So remember, we covered the analytics continuum, where we go from descriptive analytics to analytics to diagnostic analytics, predictive, and then the golden grail, which is prescriptive. Now, the way that we visualize it needs to also complement what type of analytics you apply to the information. When we talk descriptive analytics, yes, then the historical trend of how your KPI change over time is very important. But as soon as we go into diagnostic, then I love using scatter plots, right? Scatter plots is great for showing me correlation between KPIs and potentially be able to show me if there's a relationship between when things does go out of relation. And clearly a scatter plot is great for that diagnostic type of analytics that we want to apply. We can also go and attach events. We're going to do that in today's demo, where we're going to go and detect event frames, and very importantly, to be able to attach metadata to these event frames. Again, super critical when we do diagnostic analytics is to have the capability to add metadata or as much context as we can to the information to determine potential answers to questions that we don't even have as yet. And then lastly, what we can potentially do is we can maybe do a little bit of predictive stuff, projections. In this case, you'll notice that we are projecting a run rate in the bottom graph there, where we can potentially see how close you're actually going to get to your month-end target if you continue at the current rate that you are. You'll also notice that there's a green line where we can just apply a little bit of a regression analysis on the information as well. So kind of starting to play in that predictive or projected role from analytics. So very important, visualizations should help you with the types of analytics that you're trying to solve.
Matt C, is this like your love language that Lenny is now speaking?
Yeah, when I see a linear regression, I get excited. So
All right,
yeah,
so
this is a very pretty one. It's very nice and linear. So
that plant manager is having a great week, right?
oh yeah, everything's on track. Yeah.
Thanks, Lenny.
Perfect.
So, team, what's the strategy? We've got the tech stack. We've identified the problem and the challenges within it. How are we going to do it?
Well, let's get into that. So let's have a look at architecturally all these things we've been trying to describe in words. So we have our 3 layers, and John, myself, John, and Wynn, we're here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're looking at the OT operations side, and we have a label printer, barcode scanner, and some vibration sensors here that we're going to use. And we'll be taking the Omni server and connecting those up via RS-232 and TCP IP. And then taking the data hub and connecting it up to Omni server via OPC UA. Kevin is actually working out of his home in Rochester, New York. He'll be connected in over VPN into our network here, doing the configuration of a good portion of this. And then we have a Data Hub MQTT Sparkplug broker in a secure DMZ, and we'll be securely publishing MQTT data out to that. And Lenny's in Johannesburg, South Africa, with his Flow Enterprise Analytics Hub, and he'll be subscribing to data via MQTT to pull it down and do the work that he's going to do to contextualize a report on it and make it available to others. So that's what we have. And Matt, I need to go get things, get to our lab, and get ready to roll. We've got a lot of building to do.
Yeah, John, see if you can loosen up a little bit for me. I feel like you're a little IBM-ish right now. This is Integrate Live. We need to be a little more.
Yeah, well, that's part of what I got to do, man. I got to get in my environment over here, pal.
All right. Well, you go.
Feel the vibe. Okay, feel the vibe a little bit. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, we got
That's
to
awesome.
change the vibe. So let me get over there. All right.
That's a pretty impressive amount of connection and a bunch of stuff going on there. Just want to make sure we have the next couple days reserved for this, I assume.
Yeah.
You guys have 45 minutes from now.
Don't need it.
45.
Rundown's next week. So let's try to get it done before the rundown.
All right, there we go. It's ambitious, but we can see what we can do.
So there is areas of responsibility. Okay. That's the checklist. We're going to come back to this so that everybody can see we've hit each of these. God willing and the creek don't rise. And Wynn, you be ready. Kevin, you're going to be first up.
Yep.
Before we get into all of that, let's count it down. Ready?
Just a minute here. I'll be ready in a minute.
Okay.
While here we
Long
go.
walk to the lab,
Long walk to the lab.
While
It
we're
is
getting ready for that,
long.
Jeff, you know what kind of drink is bitter and sweet?
I don't know, Alan.
Reality.
Oh,
Ugh.
A skeleton walks into a bar and says, "Hey, bartender, I'll have 1 beer and a mop."
I don't like that. A beer and a mop, sir. I don't have any more bar jokes to share that are appropriate.
appropriate, huh? Okay.
I got a restaurant joke. Did you hear about the restaurant on the moon? Great food, no atmosphere.
I thought it was going to be out of this world, but
That works too.
All righty. We are ready to go.
John Weber just got
The bar
spicy.
is open.
Let's come. I love the vest, John. That is
Nice touch.
You said loosen it up. You
Fantastic.
said let me get in my vibe, man.
You look
making
tight.
Sam Malone proud is what you're doing, John.
Nice.
I'm
You can work
trying.
it, and you can work that side gig at the casino as well.
That's right.
Dealer.
Well, there are future Integrate Live sessions. Maybe we'll have
Blackjack.
to talk with a casino.
That's right.
We could do that. So should I quickly go through the equipment and then let's get to building?
Yep.
Okay. So rotating and vibrating equipment, blenders. We're going to be making some drinks here. I'm going to take some quick orders from you guys. These have vibration sensors hooked up to them that over here are connected to a vibration monitor that has its own protocol that Kevin's going to talk with. We've got to take those orders. So we're going to scan some order sheets over here that we have. and print out a label for the cups for everybody's drinks. So that's what we have here in this lab. Am I missing anything, Kevin or Win?
Nope. I think
That
that
looks
covers
good.
it. I think that covers it.
You think you can connect all this stuff?
Oh, I'm going to do it. We're going to
Okay,
do
well,
it.
Kevin, what drink do you want? Let me just write these down, then we got to get to work.
I'll have a pina colada, please.
Okay, Matt Ruth.
Margarita me up.
Okay. Oh, I meant to mention that on the pina colada, we have, I didn't give you the choices. We have pina colada mix, margarita mix, and strawberry mix. For 2 of these, we also have some special add-ins. I have some fresh strawberries and pineapple over here.
Wow.
And we throw in here to really mix up the vibrations on those 2 drinks. So if you pick a strawberry or a pina colada, you'll get some real fruit mixed in too. But Ian, what will you have?
I'm always down for fruit. Let's do strawberry.
Okay.
Just so that I'm completely clear, we're not using simulation data on this one. We're using real data.
Absolutely not.
Probably not.
Straight from the source.
We're gonna
All
shake this
right.
baby up, y'all.
Cool. Well, guys,
Matt
Yeah.
Coleman, what do you want to drink?
I'll have a margarita too. That works.
Okay, Jeff.
yeah, I'm gonna have some of that vodka in blender 1, I think.
Oh, you just
A
little
want straight up
little
vodka
early.
and ice.
no, I'll go with whatever you want, John.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Tough week, Jeff.
Oh man,
Alan,
this morning is being rough.
You have reality.
reality. Well, you know, how reality do you want to get?
I'll take some pina colada.
That's
Okay.
By the way,
Okay.
I just got the joke now. Thanks, Alan.
I just got the joke too.
Just got the joke as well.
Y'all are
Reality.
slow.
Took a while. Yep.
Bitter and sweet.
I know.
Alrighty.
You didn't put the emphasis on the T, Alan. Come on.
Yeah. I was
Come on,
thinking
I
like
picked
life
it up.
in general. I thought it was philosophical.
John, thank you.
This is
All right.
self-guided dad jokes.
Here we go. One,
ready?
two,
Punch.
three. Who's up? Kevin?
We ready?
We're ready.
Let's get some stuff done.
Brad, I see your question and we'll hold it for the end. Thank you, sir. Everybody else, if you, I feel like it's, 2 years of this. We don't need to say it, but Q&A, drop your questions down below, please.
All right. Should be seeing my computer.
Gotcha.
All right, let's get started. So as John said, we're gonna connect up a barcode scanner, a printer, and a TPI vibration monitor. We're going to start with the scanner. So we need to start with the scanner's documentation. So in that documentation, I need to find out what the format is of the data that the scanner is going to be sending me, and what the COM parameters are for connecting to it, because it's connected serially. For the interest of time, I've kind of made some notes here to help us get to the relevant sections more easily. So for the RS-232 serial interface on this scanner, I need the RS-232 host parameters. So I'm going to go to that section. And so this tells me data transmission format for the standard data as is. So that means it's going to send me the barcode, and it's going to be terminated by a suffix, which is going to be a carriage return and a line feed. So that gives me the message format information that I need to configure a protocol at OmniServer. And the default COM parameters, I've got a baud rate of 9600, parity of none, no handshaking, and a stop bit of 1. So that's all the information I actually need to configure OmniServer. So I'm going to jump over to OmniServer. First thing I want to do is go to the protocol section. I'm going to create a new protocol. I'm going to give it a meaningful name so that when I select it later, I know what I'm selecting. So I'm going to call this guy barcode scanner L. And the next thing I need to add are items. Now, items in OmniServer are for passing data from an OPC client application to a device, or retrieving data from a device and passing that to the client. So for the scanner's case, we need to collect data from the scanner and pass it to our client application, which is Data Hub in this case. So I need to add an item here. My first item, I'm just going to call that one barcode scanned. I'm going to make that a string type since it's going to be a UPC barcode. A little too long for it to be an integer data type. So we're going to parse that into a string item. And that's going to be a barcode That's going to be the barcode for our drink type. So when John scans that barcode sheet, there's a barcode specifically for each one of those types of drinks that we talked about: margarita, pina colada, et cetera, et cetera. So the next item that I need, because this particular scanner is going to be doing double duty. It's going to be being used to scan for the drink type. But also, if we have downtime for some reason, John's also going to be able to scan a barcode that reports what the reason for that downtime was. So we also need an item for that downtime reason. So I'm going to add an item for that. I'm just going to call that downtime reason. And that one we actually need to be an integer for analytics purposes up in Flow. So we're going to keep that as an integer data type. And I'll explain why that's going to work with the barcode when we get to the message. There's some specific formatting I have to do to get that to work. So those were our two items. We're now ready to actually tell OmniServer how to take the data it's receiving from the scanner and parse that correctly into our items. So with the scanner, it's sending us data in an unsolicited fashion. So I'm not having to send a request to it. So I'm going to use a response only message for that. And I'm going to have two of these, one for the drink type and one for the downtime reason. So we're going to start with the barcode downtime reason. I'm just going to give that a simple, meaningful name. And so in order to make this work, for the downtime reason, we actually have barcodes that the first 10 digits are exactly the same for those particular barcodes. So we're going to actually use the first 10 digits as a key so that OmniServer can differentiate between these barcodes and the barcodes for the drink type. So in the received portion, I'm actually just going to hard code the first 10 digits that I know are going to be in my barcodes. We designed the barcode specifically for this reason. And that's going to be 00704 and 5 zeros. And then following that is the actual reason code that we're interested in. It's a 1-digit reason code. And we want to parse that into our downtime reason item. So down in my items list, I'm going to grab downtime reason, drag that up into the field. And I actually need to give this a length of 1 so that OmniServer knows to take the 1 byte character at that position and parse it into that item. And then we actually, since the UPC is 12 digits, there's a 12th digit. We actually just want to ignore that. It's a check digit. We actually have no interest in doing anything with that digit. So inside curly braces, :1s, we'll tell OmniServer to ignore 1 byte at that position. And then remember, we terminate, the scanner is terminating all of its messages with a carriage return and a line feed. So the last step for this message is to add a carriage return and a line feed. Over in my control sequences, I'm going to drag a carriage return. And these are in alphabetical order. I'm going to find the line feed. And
we're working with a simpler barcode here for convenience, right? But we can similarly build much more complex parsing of barcodes in a similar fashion.
Yeah, it's absolutely dependent on the use case. I mean, honestly, in its most basic form, I would literally have one item, one unsolicited message, parsing just the barcode into a single item.
The downtime reason, that single character is 0 to 9, I'm assuming. So if you needed to go double digits, you'd use the
Right.
next.
We would design the barcode so that it was more than 1 digit to represent that code, and then we would change the length on this. And then we would hard code fewer characters at the beginning.
Yep.
Absolutely. And in OmniServer, because we're going to have two messages, and this is unsolicited, I need to be able to differentiate between them. I actually need to assign a high priority and a normal priority to one of them so that one of them gets compared to the incoming data first. Because this one is more specific and it's always going to have the same first 10 digits, I'm going to set this one to a priority of high so that OmniServer compares incoming data to this message first. And if it doesn't have the first 10 digits that match, it's going to move on to the next message that I'm about to configure and compare it to that message. So
Hey,
that's
Kevin.
Yeah.
Quick question from Lynn in the audience. Is it 0 to 9 or 0 to F?
Well, these are ASCII, so it would be 0 to 9.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep. So that's it for that message. We're going to move on to our next message, which is going to be barcode drink type. This one we're going to keep a priority of normal. And this one, we actually want the entire UPC barcode for the drink type parsed into our barcode scanned item. So I'm going to grab barcode scan, drag it to the received field. And then I literally just need to terminate this with a carriage return and a line feed. And that's it for our scanner protocol. I'm going to go ahead and save this guy.
I like that this is, I mean, this is something that I feel like is actually like within the realm of something I could accomplish, which.
Whoa.
Wow.
Hey, that's
it's
what we're going for.
Hey,
It's
Jeff.
easy, but I don't know, Jeff.
Remember, humble, Jeff.
Listen, no, I said it kind of like, and that's a low bar. So that was kind of, I mean, I'm just saying like I was expecting to be completely lost right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not, so.
Okay, so we've got our protocol. OmniServer knows how to communicate with the scanner. So the next step is I need to actually set up the physical connection to the scanner. So I'm going to go to the devices section. I'm going to do a new serial USB mapped device. And as you may have seen on the labels when John was showing our setup, our scanner is actually connected to COM4. So I'm going to change this to COM port 4.
Kevin, are you sure the scanner's on COM4? Scanner's on COM3, printer's on
Okay.
COM4.
I stand corrected.
This is why you label your equipment, folks.
Ah,
High-tech stuff.
come on, John, we got to have something break.
So for the COM parameters, the default baud rate, data bits, parity, stop bits, flow control in OmniServer happened to sync up with what our documentation told us we needed. So that's actually all the configuration we need to do for the serial device. Last step for a scanner is to create a topic that's going to marry the protocol and the device together. So from here, I'm going to click the create topic button and give this a meaningful name. For simplicity, I'm literally just going to call this scanner. You'll see that COM port is already selected. And I just need to select my protocol that we just configured and click save. And now that topic's ready for us to connect to from Data Hub when we get to that point. So
Hey, Kevin, real quick question. You're doing this via serial connections for the barcode reader, the scanner. Could you also do that via Ethernet or Ethernet serial converters?
Absolutely. Yeah, we could
Okay.
absolutely have that scanner's COM port hooked up to a serial to Ethernet converter. And then we would connect to that converter using an Ethernet device instead of a COM device in OmniServer.
Gotcha.
Folks, come back
Thanks.
for rundown. There's a device we haven't talked about. I'm kind of looking at here on the table. Well, you can't see it in this cam, but come back for rundown and maybe we can play with that Ethernet serial concept.
Cool.
Okay. So we've got our
One more question coming in just for clarity. And I think these types of questions are best just to handle in line while we're doing it. For clarity, is the computer that's being used to set up the software toolbox configuration the same that the devices are directly connected to? Does that matter?
Yes.
yes.
The computer's right over here. I did not point it, but it's on a side table right over here. So I have the serial connections there.
I'm connected to that computer doing the configuration through remote desktop session.
Got it. Thank you.
Great question. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, so we've got our scanner. Our scanner is ready. Next step is to get connected to our printer. So I could certainly use it's a Zebra printer. I could certainly use the Zebra protocol documentation. It's a well-documented protocol, ZPL2 protocol. There's actually an easier way with Zebra printer. They have a Zebra designer, which is a visual tool that allows you to build up what you want your label to look like. Since it's a serial connection, I can't actually have that and OmniServer connected to the printer at the same time. So for simplicity, I actually have some screenshots of what that looked like when I designed the label. So we've got a label at the top that defines what the drink type is and a barcode underneath that's going to print that's going to correspond to that specific drink type. And then once you have your label set up the way you want it to be, the way you want it to look visually when it's printed, then you're going to go to print. and you want to make sure print to file is selected. In this particular case, you could actually specify for the barcode a placeholder barcode, which I did because it's going to make it easier to find that field in the output later. And then you basically you print that and it generates a .prn file. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. I actually have that file here, and you see it actually outputs the entire string of all of the different commands that we would need to send to the printer to print that label that you saw in the screenshot. So there's a couple of things we have to do to this, but then we can actually use this output directly in OmniServer with just a little bit of modification. I have this open in Notepad++ because it displays control characters or special characters. And you'll see there's a DLE at the beginning of this. We'll actually replace this in OmniServer with a specially OmniServer formatted DLE in place of that. You'll see all of these different commands are on separate lines. We actually need to remove those line feeds so that everything is one long continuous string of commands. And then you'll see there's these FD fields that actually represent the data that we want to print for the label and the barcode. So in OmniServer, we'll actually replace these with items. For now, though, I'm actually going to go ahead and remove these line feeds so that this can actually be used when I jump over to OmniServer in just a minute.
So Kevin, I know zebra printers end up being pretty common, and this is a nice hack for them. Can similar workarounds be used for other printer types?
What was that? What was the question?
So zebra printers have this particular format, right? And this is kind of a workaround for generating the protocol versus using the manual. Can you do that on similar or other device manufacturers like other printers, or is this really just a quick hack for zebra?
It depends on whether the specific vendor provides a visual designer that can output to a PRN file. Mm-hmm. Zebra does. It's handy. You see how many each of these individual sequences of letters is a separate command. Mm-hmm. So we could certainly figure that out with the documentation. There would just be a lot of trial and error until we got it to the point where it looked exactly the way we wanted it to. And when there's not a visual designer, that's kind of what you have to do. And it works. It just takes you a little more time to get to that point.
Yep. Hey, Kevin, when the folks at Advancion did that work at, this little soup company, mm-hmm. which we could blend this later if you want. I think, they did have to do some work they didn't have a visual designer for the particular printer that was being used here.
Yes, that one was right. Manuals.
Yeah, but it worked.
It did. You guys were very helpful in helping doing all that test troubleshooting for protocol as well.
Yep. If you do decide to blend that, John, take it out of the can.
Man, you want to talk about some vibration?
Or get a blend
back. That might be a circuit breaker tripping vibe.
So 1 line or 2 lines is what you need. Are you good?
Well, it's just line. Yeah, there we go. So now
look at this, Jeff, man, you the expert.
All along, he wasn't kidding.
Line wrap messes you up every time. But now that we've removed all of those line feeds, we can actually select all of that minus the DLE. And we're going to add that in OmniServer because it needs a special formatting. So I'm just going to copy that and I'm going to minimize that. We're going to go back over to OmniServer. We're going to create another protocol. And I'm just going to call this one Zebra Printer 2. As with the other protocol, first step we want to do is define our items, because if the items don't exist, we can't drag those over and put those into the messages where we need them. So with the printer, we're sending data to the printer. So that's what the items are going to be used for here. I'm going to add our first item. We need an item for the barcode value itself. And to differentiate between this item and the one from our scanner, I'm actually going to call this one barcode print. And this is going to be a string data type. Because we're writing to this one, I'm actually going to put in a placeholder initial value. That'll be in there until we write from data up to that item. I'm just going to put in all zeros, 12 zeros, because it's the format of a UPC. And I actually want to enable echo output value for this one because with this particular device, we're not reading values back for this item. We're only writing to them. So any clients connected won't have a value for the item unless you echo the value that they've written back to the client. You don't have to do that for it to work, but it's nice to be able to see the value that you've written from the client application. So I'm going to enable that. And then the second item that we need is for our drink type label. So I'm just going to call that drink type. We're going to make that one a string as well. And for the initial value on that one, I'm just going to put in drink type. We want to echo the output on that one as well. And then we're going to move on to, instead of response only messages, this time we're going to use command response messages, which allow us to send commands to the device, in this case, the printer. So we're only going to need one command for this particular protocol. So I'm going to just label this one print drink label. We want this to actually be a write type message, such that when we write to our items, it causes this command to get sent to the printer. So for the request is a command that's actually going to get sent out to the device. We're not expecting a response back from the printer in response to the request. So we won't be defining anything here. So for the request, the first thing I want to do is define that DLE character, which we saw from the PRN file, and that's a data link escape character, a hexadecimal 10. So I'm going to drag that over, and then I can literally click right after the DLE, and I can paste in my output from the PRN file. And the last step, we need to replace those placeholders for the FD fields with our actual items. So if I look in here, there's FD drink type. We're actually going to leave the drink type colon and only replace the actual drink type itself with the value from our tag. So I'm actually going to delete that. And then I'm going to take drink type and I'm going to drag it up there in place of that. And then we've got FD and our barcode value. So I'm just going to delete that placeholder and replace it with my barcode print item. And that will allow us.
Kevin,
that will allow it.
It looked like it should have just been FD and then barcode print, and then that little caret should be on the other side.
Yeah, you're right. I copy and paste bit me there.
Oh, no worries.
Good eye, Wayne.
Yep.
And you're right. The uppercase caret is a beginning character for that particular protocol on the commands. So at this point, when this command gets sent, we're going to be replacing the drink type with an actual value that's written from our client data hub in this case, and the barcode print is going to get replaced with the actual barcode value from our scanner. And since we have two pieces of data that are going to be sent, we actually want to set this up to be a triggered message, because we want both of those pieces of data to have been written to those items before the command gets sent. As it is right now, this command would get sent after the write to the first item. So it wouldn't wait for the second item at that point. So we're actually going to set this to be from our architecture. I actually happen to know that the drink type is going to be written last from Data Hub. So I'm going to set that up to be the trigger so that Data Hub is going to write that value. We're already going to have received the barcode value. So at that point, it's safe to send the print command and get a properly formatted label. So that's all the configuration we need to do in the protocol. I'm going to save this, confirm yes, that I want to save those changes, and then we can close the protocol. Back over in Omni server, we need to configure a new serial USB mapped device. This one's actually going to be on COM4, as we see on as we saw earlier in the labels that John has on those. We know that the printer is actually using the same COM parameters. These are default Windows COM parameters, and Omni server defaults to those COM parameters as well. So literally, that's the only thing we need to change on this one is to COM4. And then we're going to save that, create a topic for our printer. Again, for simplicity, I'm just going to call it printer. And we need to select the protocol we just configured and save. And now our scanner and our printer topics are ready to go. And last but not least, we need to connect to our TPI vibration monitor that's going to measure the vibrations from those blenders when they're running. Now, that particular protocol, we're actually not going to have to configure because we have a special version of OmniServer that has pre-configured protocols for TPI 9034 and 9038 models. You can see those here. The 9034, which is what we have there in the lab connected to our blenders, is a 4-channel model. And the 9038 is an 8-channel model. That's why they're 2 different protocols for different types of channels. So we're going to actually open the protocol that we're going to be using, the 9034. So I can't share the protocol details on this one. It's a proprietary, protected protocol that the vendor, we're not allowed to, for intellectual property reasons, share the actual message formatting. It is password protected. That's actually something in OmniServer you can do with any of your own protocols. If you want to protect those from any undesirable changes, like you don't want people to change items or the messages so that they might break them, you can actually go to File, Restrict Access, and specify password. Just make sure you make note of that password somewhere, because if you ever did need to make changes to your protocol, you're going to need that password to get back into the protocol and make changes. Even though I can't show you the messages, I am going to show you the items list to show you the types of information we are gathering from the TPI vibration monitor. We're collecting bearing damage units or BDU values from all the 4 channels, channel 1 and 2 in our particular case today, current values, ISO values. We've got total G values that we're going to be collecting from channels 1 and 2. Also, there are a load of warnings and alarms that can be configured on these devices that we can also access, along with there are quite a few settings that we can actually read from the device that show you what the settings are for certain current parameters in the TPI vibration monitor.
Hey, Kevin.
Yep.
One of the things that we spend a lot of time on with our customers is picking the sensor to match the application. Any considerations you had when you were deciding this, and anything that relates to the way you collect the data?
You're talking about with respect to the actual vibration sensors themselves that are connected to the channels?
We always deal with resolution and scans and all that kind of good stuff as far as how quick it responds.
Yeah, I forget which ones ours are. They are keyed to a specific frequency, I believe.
Yeah, they are. And they're accelerometers that are picking up information in this axis. But yeah, I don't remember the particular frequencies on these.
Yeah,
I think probably what matters more is the speed at which this device processes it, though, Kevin. But you probably think you were going to cover.
I'll cover that. Yeah, I'm going to cover that when we get to the connection.
Okay.
Data.
Got it.
I'm going to go ahead and just be the watching the clock guy.
Yep.
No, we've got 22 minutes remaining.
Yep.
Lenny's looking nervous.
All right.
Lenny's.
I thought you said 2 days, John. Oh, okay.
Gotta get done by next
So
week.
we need the TPI monitors an Ethernet device. So back in OmniServer, I need to click, go to the devices section and configure a new Ethernet device. It's a TCP type. We're going to put in the IP address that's configured on that device, and the port that's configured on it, 9764. And I'm going to save that. And then we need to also create a topic for that. I'm going to call that TPI underscore 9034 for simplicity. And we need to select that TPI 9034 protocol. See, it has our TCP IP Ethernet device. I'm going to click save. So we have all 3 of our topics. Last but not least, before I jump over to Data Hub, I want to review the OPC UA settings for the endpoint we're going to be connecting to. So over in clients under OPC UA, we're going to connect to the default endpoint. So if I open those properties, we'll make note of this, opc.tcp:// our machine name, and the configurable port 27730. Also for security, for simplicity today, we're actually going to be using security if none, but just be aware, both Data Hub and OmniServer support encryption for security purposes on the OPC UA connection, and those are enabled by default in OmniServer. So So we didn't make any changes here, so I'm going to cancel out of here. Last but not least, authentication. OmniServer does support passing a username and password for user authentication. This is where you would configure those. Again, for simplicity, we're going to leave this disabled so that data can connect without having to specify a username and password. So that being said, that's all the configuration that's necessary in OmniServer. I'm going to bring up my data or Cogent Data Hub and connect to it. And the first thing we need to do is configure our OPC UA connection to OmniServer. We're actually going to make two connections, one for the TPI vibration monitor that has a slightly slower update rate because if we pull it faster than 5,000 milliseconds, it slows it down performance-wise. So we want to be able to specify a different update rate for the TPI vibration monitor. So I'm going to add that one first. And for connection name, I'm just going to give that a meaningful name.
While Kevin does this, the reason the device slows down is the device channel scans the channels, the hardware and the CPU in here does. So it does those in order. So if you start pulling this thing too fast, that little CPU in this device can't keep up. So you actually make things worse. And that's an important consideration when you're dealing with these devices, is knowing those dynamics.
About the scan rate.
Yep.
So I've got my endpoint security of non-user token type anonymous. I'm going to do a connection test. See that succeeded. So those settings are correct. For the maximum update rate, again, I want to change that to 5,000 milliseconds to slow that down. So then we don't overload our TPI vibration monitor. For the data domain, we actually want to group all of our OmniServer data together. So I'm just going to define a data domain of OmniServer. We want to manually select. Configure nodes is going to allow us to browse the OmniServer address space. I want my TPI monitor items. I'm going to select BDU value for channel 1 and 2. I'm going to select total G value for channel 1 and 2. ISO value for channel 1 and 2. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, click OK again, and apply. And you'll see that connection's running. So it's successfully connected to OmniServer. And we just need to add our second connection for the scanner and the barcode and the printer and the scanner. I want that to be a slightly faster update rate just so that it's more responsive. So I'm going to call this OmniServer.
And those devices can certainly handle the faster update rate.
We're not limited on that with those devices.
By the hardware, yeah.
It's going to be the same endpoint.
While he's configuring that, a question from me personally. Can one OmniServer handle multiple protocols in, or is it a one-to-one?
Now you can put multiple protocols into OmniServer, and we've had people run dozens of different device protocols over all the different physical connection types.
Okay, and then the follow-up: if I've got a one in, can I have a mini out? So can I take like OPC UA I'm connected to and publish it out in both OPC and MQTT, or is it a one-to-one out?
Okay, well that's actually a data hub question, and yeah, when you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean we can connect as many clients as we want to OmniServer to read that data, so that's not a problem. OmniServer doesn't limit the number of clients. We can mix and match and have SweetLink, OPC DA, OPC UA. That's not a problem.
But once the data is over in the data hub, you could also publish it out to different destinations too.
That is correct. Yeah, we're publishing to one MQTT broker, but we could publish that to a UA client as well. That could be in our OT side.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
I know in OmniServer, we've connected a lot of devices. I think so many devices that our limiting factor is actually the number of TCP ports available on the VM and not the number of devices we could connect in OmniServer itself.
Yeesh.
Okay, so I've got both of my connections. You may have noticed that I use an update rate of 500 milliseconds for a scanner or a printer. Just those are responsive again because those aren't limited update rate. So the last step of my process is to set up Data Hub to take the barcode from the scanner and write it to the barcode item that's going to be used in the printer command. To do that, I'm going to use a functionality called point-to-point bridging in Data Hub. You'll see enable point-to-point bridging is enabled. I'm going to quickly configure those bridges. You have a source item and a destination item. Read from the source, write to the destination. So I'm going to go to my Omni server data domain, expand down. My source is going to be the scanner, and I want the barcode scanned item. My destination is going to be the printer, and it's going to be the barcode print item. So we're going to read from that item, write to this item, apply that. You'll see it added my point-to-point bridge. Make sure I click apply again so that gets applied. And my part that's it for my part.
Cool.
We're ready for when to take over and finish configuring our Data Hub for handling some automated generation of the labels that are associated with those barcodes and the MQTT side of things.
Awesome. While you're doing that, we'll let Kevin and John also, if you guys want to run any testing just to ensure your connectivity in the background, we'll save time. Instead of watching that process, we'll focus on when. Can you get it done? Can you do it in 5 minutes?
I can try my best. Kevin, can you stop sharing and then I'll take over?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Perfect. Screen 2. Got it. All right, you guys should be seeing my software toolbox bar and grill remote desktop connection.
So when you're VPN to the DMZ here, right? This is
the so I got two computers here, right? I got the bar and grill machine that Kevin was just on. So you can see the bridge he just created and the UA connection. So that's one side. I have the DMZ behind that, and we'll do that second. So I'm going to start in the bar and grill machine. And the first thing I need to do is create a lookup table. So there's lots of ways you can create a lookup table. I'm going to write a script in this case. Really, we want to see what the barcode maps to what drink type. If I was doing this, if I had unlimited time, I would probably do this in a database. But we have 45 minutes, so a script is going to be the quickest thing. So we're going to call this write drink type. And so Data Hub has a built-in scripting language that allows us to quickly modify and do things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So the goal is to monitor the barcode scanned tag, and when that changes, we're going to write to the drink type. So we need to have two tag names in here. I'm going to have a drink name tag, and we're going to that's our Omni server printer drink type. So this is the tag we're going to write to, and then we need a trigger tag. The trigger tag is going to be the tag we monitor, in this case the actual barcode that we scanned, and that will when the new barcode scanned, we will write out a new drink type. So it should be pretty simple. So we put that in, we put our two tags in. We're going to change the name of this to data changed. Okay, so we'll build out this data change event here in a second. The constructor, what we want to do in our constructor is define what happens when the script starts. So we're going to create an on-change event. And in that on-change event, we want to pass it our Data Hub symbol or tag. That's going to be our trigger tag. Okay, and then do some fancy scripting here. Basically, that's just like me or this, if you're familiar with any scripting language. We're going to call the data changed event. Okay, so what this line says is every time trigger tag changes, we're going to call data changed. Okay, so now we build out the real meat of this, which is our lookup table. So go ahead. Oh, all right, never mind. We'll do a quick if statement here. So if the value equals, and remember these are strings, so the barcode ending in 1-4, we know that is a margarita drink type. So we can actually write out to Data Hub tags using a command called Data Hub write. Data Hub write just takes a tag name and a tag value. So the tag name we want to write to is our drink name.
I just want to reiterate your statement at the front. If this wasn't trying to rush into a demo, you would use a data table. You'd build data tables. You do a lookup off a data table. Just
That
make,
would be so much easier. Yes, this
Well,
is
make
you
sure
know
the
you don't
audience
have to
is hearing
script
that.
this.
Yep.
We're doing this. This is the quick 5-minute fix, right?
Thank you.
So we've created our if the barcode ends with 1-4, then we're going to write margarita. We just need to build this out. So we got else, and then if it ends with 21, we know it's a pina colada.
11 or
We
21.
have a 21 there.
Oh, thank you guys.
No one really likes pina coladas anyway.
I don't know. Someone
Speak
ordered
for your-
one.
speak for
so-
yourself.
Me.
Yeah.
It was me.
I got
Bring me
two
bring me
orders
2
in here
pina
for 'em.
coladas.
There it is.
I'll have one
So,
for each hand.
let's see. We got to end one in 38, which is our strawberry daiquiri. Okay, and then the one ending in 45. This one is our fruit smoothie, which, you know, sometimes you might have kids. You gotta have the non-alcoholic. So, all right, that's it for my script. We have, you know, to summarize, we have 2 tags, a trigger tag. When it changes, we fire a data changed event. When that data change event fires, we do some if else, checking the barcode and writing out these different values, string values to these data hub tags. So I'm going to play this script. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing because I think John was going to make some drinks. Is that about right?
Yep. Well, it's at least time we make some drink labels.
About that
So,
time.
yeah, it is about that time. So let me switch to the blender cam here real quick. Got to move.
Well,
Okay.
John,
So
when Keith Lighting said you need the squiggly line over the N in Pina. So I'll leave you to that. Go for it, John.
That would take the whole 45 minutes to figure out how to do that. Sorry.
Need the character map.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, I've scanned some stuff here, fellas.
All right.
Now
Well,
I have labels printing.
I'm going to check to make sure we have data over here. I do have data.
So you're getting the barcode scans.
I am not getting that from you. No.
Getting successful scans. Kevin, are you getting them?
Well, I'm on Kevin's machine. So
Yeah, I'm not on the machine.
Kevin wouldn't know.
I mean, I can take back over and we can look at it.
The only thing, it was just a placeholder, but I did notice that on the print on the image of the Zebra printer, there was a difference in the barcode on the image versus the number that's written down. I don't think it would affect it, but
No, that was just a placeholder. We replaced that with the item. So the value that's being scanned should be being placed into that command. If he's not getting a barcode in the item though in Data Hub, then we have to look at the barcodes, the scanner protocol. Yeah, you're probably going to have to go. I mean, I don't know if we want to switch back over and troubleshoot it or
We're gonna have to hustle.
what you're going to do.
Kevin, you can take control. I mean,
Oh, you know what? Hey, Kevin, you know what? I helped break it. The scanner is on COM4 and the printer is on COM3. I labeled them wrong. Somebody switch the COM ports real quick.
Are you still in there, Wen?
I'm going to switch it. So
Yeah, that's on
just go to the topics and swap the devices.
Just swap the ports.
I'm working on it.
Meanwhile, John just
All right.
lost 2.5 pounds. Kevin,
I wasn't going to argue because I assumed that you
Well,
had labeled
I
them
obviously
correctly
put the
and I missed
labels
something.
on them wrong. What the heck was
That's
I
great.
thinking?
that's
All right,
I don't know.
let's
Been
try
hanging
to
out in the bar too
Never
long.
count on the installation, guys. Yep.
try to scan something now, John. Let's see. Oh, I got something.
Hey,
It's actually working. I see a new barcode come in. I saw we wrote strawberry daiquiri to the drink type. I saw we wrote fruit smoothie to the drink type. Oh, and I see. So let's see here. Let me make sure
Printer shows online.
well, give me a sec. Printer's on COM4 or COM3?
COM4. No, COM3.
You sure?
Yeah, it's on COM3.
Man, these labels are really getting me here.
Yeah, we're going to take care of that right
We're gonna
now.
make an instrumentation change.
Oh my goodness.
Any project comes with a little bit of troubleshooting, you know?
All right, try
They told me
to
when I started learning comms that it was always the wiring and always the cable.
Did you keep
Yeah,
the
well,
did
the
you keep the
com-
COM port the same on both the topics line?
I changed the so I have COM3 and I have a COM4, and then the topics I didn't touch. They are
I'm
Well,
just saying that
that's
you're
where you
just
would have had to.
proving-
That's where you would have had to change it. One is in the topics and OmniServer.
I switched it at a different place though. I just changed the COM ports. So what right now I have the scanner at COM4 and I have the printer at COM3. So,
yeah, that's right. I can see the connectors on the computer.
and I can see when you scan, we do write to those.
All right.
Those
Well,
items.
I think we're going to have to move on for the sake of time because we've got to get this data through the DMZ, do something in Flow, and we're running out of time. But the good news is, I do have a few labels that
Cool.
I'll slap on some drinks. So, do you want me to run a blend a little quick here? Make sure you're seeing some vibe data.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, let's just check that quickly.
How about when
And-
you switch to the DMZ machine? I troubleshoot this in the other machine.
That would work. Sure. I got one more thing to set up here. So I do see your vibration happening now. Oh yeah, big vibration on channel 1.
Okay, I don't want to do too much. We'll leave some for Lenny, and then all right, let's keep moving.
I'm gonna pop back into my I need to set up an MQTT client to push out, right? The reason we're using MQTT to push out is because that allows us to keep no open ports versus allowing something to come in and connect over UA. So in this case, we're going to create a new connection. And I'm just going to call this, give it a name that is useful. So this is the DMZ push. Put in my IP address. We're going to use port 8883, and we need to pick some tags. So we're going to do the 2 barcode tags, the 2 scanner tags, and we're going to do all 6 of the TPI tags. And you can add patterns and do other things here if you wanted to do it that way.
When isn't it port 1883?
Well, I'm pushing over a secure connection using
okay.
SSL, so you
you're not
can
using
still use 1883 though. So
Okay, cool.
we can push secure from OT to IT, and then you can still consume without an SSL certificate from that side, because I'm going to enable both on the DMZ side. So we chose our certificate, which Data Hub ships with. If you want to use your own cert, you could. And then finally, we need to specify our message format. How are we sending this? We're going to replace the sender ID with a point name. So you got all these placeholders here. We're going to use the one for point to represent our tag name. And now what our JSON payload is going to be is it's going to have a value, a quality, a timestamp, and a tag name. So if I click OK there, and I'm all set on this connection. If I click apply, it's not going to connect yet because I still have some DMZ configuration to do. So let me pull up my DMZ machine. I mean, step 1 is to enable the broker. And as Lenny said, he's actually connecting over plain text where I'm publishing over secure. So the one thing I need to do is also have a certificate mentioned there. And I do need my payloads to match. With MQTT, you need to make sure your payloads match so we can parse it correctly in here. So I'll again have a value, quality, timestamp, point name. Okay, apply. Now let's give this DMZ push just a second, and we can see it's running. Okay, so we are now pushing to the DMZ. John, if you want to do some Blender data, or I'm not going to get any data till we start updating some tags here. So,
Okay, well, I ran the blenders. I guess you just tell me when you want me to run them again.
okay, why don't we do that again now?
Okay, I'm going to mute, so you just got to give me a thumbs up.
Okay, great. So if I view my connections here, we do see we have one active client. And no data yet. What could I have done wrong? Maybe I went too fast. Let's see here. My payload looks correct. Now, Lenny, can you connect? Because we can always, I don't technically need to do anything with the data as long as you are able to also connect in and gather this data. So let's see here.
When do you need me to keep running, or?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any data yet for some reason.
Yeah,
And
I'm connected to the broker, but there's no data coming through.
Okay. All right. Well, that's odd. I'm not sure what I did wrong.
Well, let me suggest something.
Yep. Go ahead.
We've got two problems that we've got two integration points that we've got to troubleshoot. We've got 10 minutes to the end of our stop time. I'm going to recommend that what we do at this point is that we take next week's rundown. We revisit. We're going to figure out where the broken part is right now.
Yep.
But we figure that out. We show what was broken on the rundown. We reveal what the fix was. Wait, is there? Red and green.
Yeah, that's just a disconnect reconnect.
Right,
But yes, I agree with what you're saying, Jeff. I'm not exactly sure what the problem is, and we are getting really tight on time.
At the end of the day, we knew we were ambitious in what we were wanting to pull off. I think we pause the project where it's at. We come back, we show the fix. Lenny does his piece and shows how it comes in. And then, because I think that's going to give us 25, 30 minutes by the time we do that. And then we finish off our rundown with a conversation around what went wrong. I mean, it's actually the perfect situation for a good rundown conversation. And I want to say to the group, you don't beat yourself up over this. This is every single guy and gal that is connected to this right now. This is the world they live in. If things went right when we plug stuff in, well, I don't know that any of us would have jobs. So it's okay. Let's own it. We're being transparent about it. I love that.
I saw some snails racing around my property the other day, and one of them thought he'd be faster if he got rid of his shell, and just made him a little sluggish. Speaking of things taking longer,
All right.
I digress. So last time we already confirmed connectivity to our barcode scanner. We confirmed the scan codes were coming in. So we're gonna skip that part. We need to get our printer working. So in order to do that, I'm going to use a tool in OmniServer called the IO monitor. So in IO monitor, I need to select the COM port for my printer, which is COM3, and I'm going to bring up my OPC test client, which is a sample OPC client that installs with OmniServer. And I'm going to ask you to scan a barcode, a drink type barcode for me, John.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the print command we just sent out. It's not. Shouldn't have worked.
Well, it did. I got a label.
Okay. All right. Well,
you're magic. You got it fixed.
Apparently I am magic. Let's go into the OmniServer protocol. And so what should have happened is it shouldn't have worked. What we were seeing last week is that everything before this backslash was being transmitted, but nothing after it was being transmitted. So in OmniServer, a backslash is a special character. It's used to denote different number systems, hexadecimal, decimal numbers. So if it gets used literally in a message string, as you can see here, there's a barcode, there's a backslash. If it gets used literally, it's used as an escape sequence, which caused everything after that backslash to not get transmitted, which was causing our barcode labels not to get printed. So in order to actually handle that, you have to use another backslash. You'll see that added. That escapes the backslash's special characters status. Alternate to that, you could replace it with its hexadecimal equivalent. That would work as well. Hexadecimal 5C is a backslash, so I could also enter backslash X 5C, and it would do the same thing. Additionally, last week, I was supposed to enable this triggered button, which means that the only way this command should get sent is after a write to this drink type trigger item. With that disabled, a write to the barcode item would cause this to get transmitted, or a write to the drink type item would cause this to get transmitted. We don't want that to happen. We only want the command to get sent after both of those items have values, in order to get a properly printed label with the right barcode and the right drink type on it. So I've enabled that. You see, we've got a double backslash now instead of just the one. That tells OmniServer treat this backslash literally, and transmit a literal ASCII backslash. So I will save that, apply the changes, and go ahead and scan another label, John.
There we go.
And you can see the backslashes in there. Our values for the drink type and our value for the barcode are in there. So that's all working. I've actually done a blog post. You can take a look at this later that talks about special character usage and how to use backslashes to escape special character statuses, because there are other special characters besides a backslash that you'd run into this problem with. So at this point,
and we've got a link for you at the end. You can scan a QR code and get to all this.
So at this point, I'm going to disconnect from that machine so that Wen can take over.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Kevin.
Yep.
All right.
I'll start getting some material ready here.
So the OmniServer OPC server is configured and sending up to Data Hub, yeah?
Correct. So Data Hub, the local Data Hub in the bar and grill machine should have the values. We're going to log in and just double check all that. And then the goal is to push this data to the DMZ.
Okay.
So if we just go to view data, give it a sec to load, and pull down to, say, our scanner, we can see a scan from 11/19 today, which is just last minute. So that's all working properly. I'll close this. Where we left off with the MQTT client was, let me open the configuration. I had set up a host ID, a port, and I had set up authentication. There was one checkbox I missed. Basically, we need to accept invalid certificates. Because this is a self-signed certificate, it's considered invalid. So we missed one checkbox. I'll just say, if we were rolling this out to a customer production site, just be very careful on what pieces you document. And I was like, oh, this will be easy. Miss that one checkbox, and that'll get you. So now that we have accept invalid certs enabled, we can just turn back on our DMZ, click apply. That connection says it's running. Let's go to the DMZ. And John, do you want to give me a scan of a barcode?
Hey,
And I heard it print. I see the timestamp updated to 11:21 with 43 seconds. At this point, we have data flowing from our lab to our DMZ computer over MQTT. And what Lenny is going to do is he's going to act as an MQTT client to this Data Hub broker, and he's going to consume the information for flow.
Cool.
I've got a couple drink cups ready.
John's ready to start mixing. Lenny,
You know it. But Lenny's got some stuff to do.
if you'll get your screen share started, I'll add you on.
Good.
Typos and checkboxes, the bane of programmers, integrators, and live demos alike.
I
You
concur.
know it.
Lenny, let's assume that someone's never seen Flow before. To give a quick layout of what this screen is and who would be using it from a role perspective. If you would.
Perfect. So what you're seeing in front of you is the Flow configuration environment. If you guys remember from episode 4, Flow's got 5 steps. Let's see, what can I put on the spot? Jeff, give me the 5 steps to build a proper analytics hub.
Okay. So first we have to build an information model. That's different
Correct.
than just a asset model, right? Because you're introducing things you want to measure like KPIs and time, right? Because you can't get a KPI without time. Then you're going to connect all those siloed data sources to that model that gets pushed down. So standard model, connecting the sources, transform, taking points or tags from multiple siloed data, making them into a new calculated tag or event or KPI. Visualize, that's how we serve information to people, and bridge, it's how we serve information to systems through if it comes into Flow, it's got to leave Flow. Did I get them?
Perfect, thanks.
Okay.
100% full marks for you. So this is exactly what you see in this little configuration tool here. So on the left-hand side, guess what? Model. All right, so that's the first thing we do. We create a hierarchy of a model type for your KPIs. Now that can mimic your asset structure. You can utilize the ISO 95 as a guideline, enterprise, sites, works areas, work centers, work units, the typical kind of way that we will model it. But in essence, it's now a KPI. Now I've mimicked this. You can see we've got the bar. That's where John is. In the bar, we've got a blending area. And in the blending area, we've got a few things. We're going to do a little bit of KPI monitoring around the vibrations that we get back. We're also going to detect these downtime events based on John's scanning a barcode. And then we've got some production-related things as well. So we're going to see how many drinks John produced, pretty much. And from those produced drinks, we're going to see, maybe let's do a projection to see at the end of the day, what is John's throughput going to be? So how many drinks can John potentially make in a day based on these historical analysis that we're going to apply on the data? Now, we don't have a lot of data. Obviously, the data is literally flowing in right now. So let's see how accurate this projection is going to be for us. But in essence, this is where I build out that model. Second part was to connect, right? So on the right-hand side is where I will connect to all my different data sources. Very quickly, the one that I'm going to use today is I'm going to connect to that MQTT broker that lives in the DMZ side, right? And we will then buffer the data as it comes into Flow, because I need that historical information to perform the transformation piece on top of that. Now, I've already done that. I've created a MQTT real-time buffer here. I'm connecting to that same IP address in the DMZ of WIN's MQTT broker. I'm connecting to a specific topic here, and I'm connecting to a custom JSON payload. So the data structure of that payload is custom. Obviously, we do support as well the Spark.b implementation of that, but for today's session, we'll just do a custom payload, and we will then obviously retrieve that data and start buffering it. So what we have is we'll build out this namespace here. So we can see here that I'm connected to that MQTT broker. These are the tags that's currently being pushed to that broker. So obviously we've got the tags for the printer, we've got the tags for the scanner, we've got the tags for the vibration sensors. So if I look at these guys here, they're currently chilling around here at the bottom side. So John, if you don't mind, if you can maybe spin up a few of those guys there, let it run for a few seconds. Remember we said every 5 seconds or so we'll get new values there. And as that new values come in, we will start. There we go. There's a big jump. All right. So we can see that value is coming in real time as John plays with the vibration sensors there. Same with the scanning of the barcodes. So here I've got the barcode scanned. So I can see when John scanned that barcode, it changed. So John, if you don't mind making another drink for us. then obviously it will change that barcode scanner and we will get a new point in here as well. All right, so we're buffering this data, right? And we're doing this for 7 days. And after 7 days, we will do a purge of that data. It's literally for us to be able to have a little bit of historical information to perform our analytics on top of that data. All right. Cool. So I've built a little bit of a visualization for this as well. But before we get to the visualize of this, let's talk about 2 things. All right. So the first thing is John's got a barcode that he's going to scan to detect a downtime event. And Jeff, you spoke about it when we spoke about transforming the data into things we call events and things that we call measures. So one of the things is if I want to detect downtime of a piece of equipment, we will in Flow create what we call an event frame. An event frame is literally just a trigger to tell me, hey, when do I want to start an event? When do I want to end an event so I can add additional context to that information? Now I've created a downtime event here already, and this downtime event will trigger every time John scans the barcode. So if John scans the barcode, I will create a new downtime event for this. I will also create an event if the vibration goes down. So if this vibration of the sensor goes completely down to 0, I will create another event and add some additional context to that. What context do I have? Well, I've got the context of what that downtime event is, as well as I can figure out how long that duration of that downtime is as well. So, John, if you don't mind, let's scan one of the downtime reasons there.
Can't hear you, John.
Can't seem to hear John.
Oh, I was muted because I was making
there we
noise over here. Do you want me to just scan the downtime event, or do you want me to actually, create a downtime event and scan it?
Create a downtime event and scan it there for us, John.
Okay, alrighty. So let's get these babies going here. Got to mute.
Cool. And John is going to run them for a few times. The vibration is going to end up. He's going to kill them. There we go.
The blender stopped. I got to figure out why.
Cool.
I think that was just a short stop. They're running again. So that's a short stop.
Cool.
So Lenny, I see a new downtime reason code in my DMZ data hub, so you should be getting that here shortly.
And I coded that as a short stop, Lenny.
Perfect. Let me just see. There we go. It picked up the new event there. And
Excellent.
As soon as we get the new reason for that code, we will attribute that as well. All right, so that seems to work, and we'll get the attribute value for that coming in as well.
Good deal.
So
I'm going
Lenny,
to add some more vibration stuff here and toss some pineapple in this pina colada.
So Lenny, if I can just recap what we're seeing, Flow is monitoring the vibration sensor. If the vibration sensor, the rule says if the vibration sensor goes to 0 or next to 0, create an event. John is also using the barcode scanner and scanning a list of downtime reasons, and you're getting that information, essentially coding downtime with that barcode scanner.
Correct. So we've got a list here of enumerations as well. So I'm taking the barcode that John is scanning and I am coding it into a whole bunch of different things. So if John stuck his arm into the blender, that would be a reason for a downtime. We've got the short stops overload. Then we've got one, I had to throw in something from South Africa. So we've got this thing called load shedding. That's when our power utility decides you had enough power for today. Sorry for you. But we then enumerate all of these barcodes that's got scanned into an actual reason into our system as well. And we can see what those reasons are. So there we go. There's the short stop that we had as well. So we are enumerating those downtime events as well. So that's the one way that we can do it, is to create these event frames, and then we can potentially go and visualize this on a visualization front end. And I've got all these little downtime short stops. I can see what it was. I can also go classify this manually if I wanted to. So if I wanted to reclassify to any one of those reasons, so it was actually John's arm that was in there, I can go and do that manual classification on that as well from the front end here. At the bottom, you can just see the vibrations. So this is the raw data that we're buffering from that MQTT broker. And you can see those raw data coming through as John starts and stops the vibration sensors there. All right, but there's one KPI here that we need to answer, and that is if we are alcoholics, and should we be concerned about that? All right, so let's quickly build out a KPI in Flow that's going to track and determine if we are alcoholics based on this run.
Hey, let me know when I should start making more drinks to get you more data.
I will do that, John. All right, so I've got my model here, and in my model I've got my production, right? And I'm going to measure John's throughput. Okay, so the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go into the buffer that we're buffering the data, and I'm going to look at the barcodes that's been scanned. So there's the raw tag. So currently John has made 3 drinks up until now.
Yep.
Right, so what I'm going to do in Flow is I'm going to take this tag and I'm just going to add it to my throughput here. So I'm going to add it here, and this is going to be John scanning a drink. All right. Right, so this is the source tag that I'm going to do. Now what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to now count how many times does John do this in a minute interval. So I'm taking the raw tag, I'm now creating a transformation of that raw tag into a period. I've created minutely periods just because we have such little data here, and I'm going to go and create a count. So I'm going to count how many times does John do this per minute. And inside of Flow, I've got a whole range of these different aggregation types that I can apply to the data. In my case, I want to count how many times John does this. All right, so let's deploy this out. The Flow engine is going to do its thing. It's got a backfill, so we do have capability to backfill on historical data to do this information. And if I refresh here, I can see, oh, there we go. John, in that minute period, at least had a few drinks. So John, you can scan, if you don't mind, a few times now, a few times over a few seconds while I'm busy doing this, and we'll see how Flow handles that. All right, so this is the amount that he did in that particular minute.
Hey, Lenny,
yes.
am I scanning drink type or down? What am I scanning?
Drink types, John.
I was busy making drinks, so I was distracted.
Okay, cool. Drink types, cool. All right, so let's do that. Let's now count how many of these has been done for the day so far. So what I'm going to do in Flow is I'm going to do what we call a progressive roll-up. So I can see how many has been done for the hour so far, how many has been done for the shift so far, and how many has been done for the day so far. So let's deploy these guys out as well.
So this is where that sense of time in your model comes into play, right? Understanding production shifts and calendars.
What is a shift? What is a day? Does a day start at 6? Does a day start at 7? Whatever the case is, 100%. So if we look at this guy, you'll see it will increase as John now scans, and all the barcodes that he sees there, this will now increase for the day so far. And every minute we will get the new raw data, we will calculate it, and we will start counting this up until we get a day-to-day kind of total. All right. So what I can do with this is I can now go and determine what is an average of this information. Okay. So let's very quickly do an average of how fast John is doing. I'm going to add a calculation here. And this is going to be my moving average. And in here, I'm just going to do it for the past 10 minutes, because that's really all the data that we've got. You'll obviously do it for a little bit longer than that. So I'm going to look at a range of data. In this case, it's going to be for my 10 minutes. And I'm going to go and add this into my expression here. And I'm going to look at the average, just a plain simple average of what John is doing. Perfect. From this average, I'm going to project this into the future. All right, so let's deploy this out. I'm going to add another calculation here, and this is going to be my projected value of drinks. I'm going to project this 10 periods into the future, so 10 minutes into the future. Let's deploy that out. And in here, all I have to do is look at a previous range. Based on that information, again, it's going to be for the previous 10 minutes there. Right, let's add that in, validate, and let the Flow engine do its thing. So now we're going to have a projection going into the future of where we're going to end up potentially based on John's average. Let's do exactly the same. Let's do exactly the same there. Let's move that as a projected average. So let's do that for the day as well. So let's just deploy the day-to-date aggregate, and let's add it to our visualization. So I'm gonna just make a little bit of space here for us. I'm gonna add a time series trend on this, so the normal time-based chart for the minutes. And I'm going to go and open this up. Let's add the day-to-day projected value in here. And let's also just add in our current value where we're sitting at, our current day-to-day. Right, I'm going to make this an area chart. And I'm going to make the day-to-day just a line. And I'm just going to give it a label so I can see what the actual values that we're projecting we're going to hit. So I'm going to do just the last value there. Last thing I need to do is just make sure that I'm plotting this into the future. So I'm just going to say plot it to the end of the day for me right there. And if I did everything correctly, hopefully, when I refresh here, we will get a value 21. We are for sure alcoholics in this. All right. So it looks like we're going to end up, as John carry on there, with 21 drinks at the end of the day based on his current run. So I think the KPI is answered. We are definitely alcoholics.
Okay.
So is it time for some more data, Lenny?
Yeah, what are you guys going to drink? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. There are 7 of us, excluding the bartender. Not bad. Not bad for a day.
Not bad for a day. All right, so I know it's a very little sample set, and I know I had to do it with very small minutely aggregates, but just the point that I can use an average of what we're currently doing with John just scanning barcodes, and literally we're able to predict at the end of the day we're going to end up with 21 bottles. I think that's quite remarkable for having it, the beginning of just a barcode being scanned and being passed into some actionable information around what's going to happen. I think that's quite cool.
Yeah. Let's get some more data going through here. What do you say, Lenny?
Sure, why not?
Hey,
Alrighty.
where else can you deliver that data? I mean, dashboard, great, right? But we've got an MQTT broker sitting there. Can we feed that data back out if we wanted to feed that? Not in real time. I'm just asking, can we get that KPI outside of Flow pretty easily?
Yes. So just like we had the data source, the last part of the 5-step process is, as you said, is to bridge it. We've got a concept of what we call a consumer. Now, a consumer can be either it's database. So we do this quite a lot. We push data into data mart. The cool thing about that is the data is already contextualized. It's nice and clean. It is already aggregated, so it makes it great for data mart applications. But to your point, yes, I could push this back to an MQTT broker. And I could have connected to the same MQTT broker in the DMZ, and I can start pushing that data to that broker out if I wanted to as well. 100%. Okay. So yes, we could do that as well.
And
that would be the already aggregated data or the KPI information. Now I could share back onto that MQTT broker as well.
And that's one of the kind of crucial points. And Alan, we can talk about it later on. But the fact that the reason Flow's one of the sponsors of Integrate Live, the reason that they're part of this is because that openness, that data did not just die in Flow, right? Like it's no longer, it's not about keeping it captive. There's other tools that you could potentially use to do this. There's stuff in the market that you could do this with. It's that getting it back out that becomes the problem. So cool. Well done, Lenny. Continue on. Sorry.
I think also, just to catch up a little bit, Lenny, here's the reality of what just happened, right? I mean, we ran through that really quickly, but we didn't go outside of Flow to do that. All that happened quickly within Flow, and you start to think about where that can apply specifically in a control systems type environment where that data is typically locked into that proprietary system. Well, now you can start to, for instance, for us, for oil and gas, we were doing this very thing with trying to say, hey, at the beginning of the day, we are expecting to produce X amount of barrels. We would track through the day, are we on target or not on target? and you can make adjustments throughout the day based off of that projected value, and it's incredibly valuable. And that I don't have to go outside and do it. I can actually do it within the control system if I needed to. But then now that you have MQTT, I can get that data out securely and back to my control system securely. That's amazing.
Perfect. All right. Maybe one last thing, very quickly.
Yeah.
I know we spent a lot of time on the scanning. We spent a lot of time on the projection of this to see how many drinks we're going to end up with. But what about just something very, very simple? We haven't really done too much about the vibrations that we're monitoring, right? So I use it to detect the downtime events, but something that I very easily could do here is I can say, you know what? That vibration looks a little bit too high there. Maybe John threw in too much ice. Maybe his arm really got stuck into the blender. But that
On
that
ice, a lot of pineapple that time.
a lot of pineapple. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's make a little bit of an alert on that. Let's say if the maximum vibration for a minute period is above, I don't know, five. Let's put it at in a limit condition as well. So we can do that as well. Let's take this vibration channel here. Let's again do that, and this is going to be my max vibration for the minutes. Sorry about my spelling. Let's change this now to maximum. All right, and what I can do here is now I can add a limit. All right, I can go into my toolbox here. I can go and create different limit set points. So this will be my site limit that I want to evaluate against, and I'm just going to add that into the limit section here. So let's say anything above 5, I want to treat as a limit condition. Cool. Let's do that. I'm going to backfill this on the historical data, and let's deploy this out. So what this will do again, it will create the minutely bucket periods for me. There's a minute period where I was above my limit. It's 5.6. And let's quickly add this to the chart. So I'm going to go back to my information here, open up my dashboard. I'm just resizing this and getting a little bit out of space here, but let's just do that. And let's just add a very simple time-based table report this time to that as well. So let's do that. Open this guy up. Let's add this maximum vibration here as my table report. And let's now say, please show me the limit itself, and then change the color based if the limit condition has been breached or not.
And I'm assuming, Lenny, we could define more than one limit. Like, for instance, if we had a bad bearing in the blender, that BDU value would be much higher. I'm assuming we could define multiple limits that would report differently depending on where that level fell, right?
So yeah, you can have different limits, and we can have multiple instances of those limits as well. But yeah, you can have more than one limit configured on a value as well.
Perfect.
Cool. All right, so let's refresh here. It's going to slot in a little table report in the middle there. Sorry, I had a lot of data in there. There we go.
There we go.
There's that one. It doesn't show too nicely. Very hard to see. So let's just change my limit configuration a little bit here. It's text on a table, so it doesn't make too much sense that I changed the font color. So let's just make that white for now. And let's just refresh this guy, and we're going to have a much bigger or much better indication of what things look like. There we go.
There we go.
Nice. So we know exactly at 1741 the limit occurred, and this is the only point we have to discuss in our meeting, right? Why do I have to care about any other point in time? Other try to understand what happened at this exact point.
Okay.
The whole point is to create visualization that kind of helps you driving your decision making, not to spend too much time around the other values, but really just focusing into this and try to figure out why this happened at that particular point in time.
what can you do to answer that question? Can you drill in?
So I can drill in here. I can look at the details of this guy, and this is now the actual raw tag that it's coming from. Where is it coming from? Well, it's coming from BDU channel 1.x data. So yeah, I can drill into this. I can look at the history for this as well. If someone did manually correct the data or anything, I can also see if that data point has recalculated or has changed over time as well. Cool.
All right. Hey, Lenny, I'm getting some push alerts from some Escom app over here. I think I better get some more drinks made here soon. You know what I mean, Brew?
Cool.
So I run a little more, get some done here. What do you say?
Let's run. Let's run.
Okay, let's run. All right.
Lenny, I think the other thing I noticed was when you were designing this in the designer, you had the grid, you were moving the squares around. I don't know if you defined a size there, but it looks like this would scale up, scale down pretty easy based on, what screen you were using, loading the actual dashboard in your browser. I'm assuming it just maintains kind of that aspect that you have here.
Correct. And you've got these minimize and maximize button here. So if you want a little bit more real estate, I can zoom in and zoom out. And now if I drag it, it's gonna grow. So if you've got a long pane that we wanna build, it's gonna do that, and then it's gonna just give you scroll bars in the browser as well. But to your point, yes, you've got the flexibility to move these things around where you want to put it to make sure. We will try and fit it into a size if the browser sizes is different. At some point, it's going to cut off, unfortunately. But we do try to keep that aspect ratio 100%.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Any other questions?
I think let's wrap the project up and then let's move into kind of
what just happened? Lenny, what the hell? Look at my camera.
John, did you move to South Africa?
Well, I get the push alerts from Escom. Good thing the computer is on a battery backup and we've got an emergency light in here because we've had load shedding in Matthews. Bloody hell. Glad we got these drinks ready, because what do you do when there's load shedding? Drink?
Well, I wouldn't say that's what I do, John, but very close.
Well, some do. All right, so I better code this.
So code this to load shedding for us, John. There we go.
I've done that.
So John is just sending that reason code for us, and we're going to pull it in, and we're going to associate it with this event here, and we should get a new event that says that load shedding just happened on that as well. Cool.
It was a quick one. Thank you. Gosh.
And so if we talk about the little bit of the data delay that we're seeing, I think we should address it, right? So what we're doing is we're hopping data from Matthews to where's our OPC?
The DMZ is in it's in a data center closer to the Charlotte airport. So
okay, and then Lenny's in Johannesburg connected to it, and then Lenny, Flow is usually consuming data from historical sources and other databases. This live buffer tool, I want to frame it for our audience, is probably not meant to be a exact real-time, no latency operation deployment, correct? This is more of a, hey, if you're okay with a 1 minute delay in latency, is that how you would position it?
It depends on the technology. So NQTT report on exception, we should get it with the timestamp that NQTT has pushed it.
Okay.
So at least we would get that right. OPC UA, it will, being a polling, a little bit more of a polling architecture, we'll get it as the poll comes in. But to your point, Jeff, this is not ever meant to be a full-blown industrial historian application. It's literally to buffer the data, have that available for us to do the transformation and the aggregates, and then we're going to discard it to do that as well. So it's literally just to cater for the historical values on that as well.
Got it.
Yeah, let's not take a hammer and make everything a nail, right? Let's not make this into an HMI or into a historian. Let's use it as it's designed and what it's used for. And when done so, we're going to extract value from it, tremendous value from it. So,
yep, cool.
100%. Cool.
Lenny, is that everything you wanted to show? Should we move back over to project?
That is it. I think we proved the point. We are alcoholics, especially based on load shedding. So there's the correlation, John. Load shedding causes us to be alcoholics.
There we go.
Excellent.
All
Excellent.
right. Avancian, why don't we walk through price? Software Toolbox, Lenny, let's walk through price with Avancian, and then let's talk about integration work to expect also. Sound good?
Absolutely. Ian?
Sure. Yeah, so I think we utilize 3 different tools here. The pricing we're showing, obviously always potential subject to change, but these are for subscriptions, kind of like your lowest price to enter here. So utilizing Omni server with the OPC UA DA server, about 500, Data Hub coming in around $4,000, Flow coming in around 5. So total solution right around that 10 price mark for a year. Very reasonable and gets us access to all of these tools. And we pointed out some key features that are included in all of those here as well. There's also options for perpetual licensing, but that would come on a case-by-case basis, right? Software Toolbox and Flow would be able to walk through what makes the most sense for any given situation.
Okay.
And in addition to, you have the ability to scale up from this limited use case, and then you can start adding business use cases to this model as well, because you have the additional connection points, additional calculations, and additional punch it through the DMZ.
Great call. Scaling up is always essential.
So that's usually where Alan comes in and says, hey, here's the pushback. Here's what you're not thinking about on pricing model. Alan, you want to do your piece?
Well, first thing you need to understand is the Omni Toolbox or the Omni server becomes incredibly impactful when you're talking about just start to think about, yeah, we did, drinks and this things, but now think about a line where you're producing something, and now when you do that changeover, you're going to have printers specifically where, hey, we're going to do changeover, we're going to change the product we're making. Now all the printers on that line need to be updated to the new. You can see in real time, it's literally just you send the command, printers are ready to go. You don't have to go to the line, you don't have to do all those things. So the ability to now not just be able to extract the data from these devices, but be able to really be able to get that data back down to that device. And Data Hub is amazing. Now, again, this is an entry level opportunity to be able to really, really get your feet into the water. I would say down into the waist deep level where you're actually going to be able to effectively do a project based off of this pricing. For a small scale, that's amazing to be able to have that type of flexibility, be able to really be in that industry 4.0 category of being able to decouple your data, move the data around where needed securely, and then be able to get it back where you need to be. So I don't have very much pushback on this just because I think the opportunity is so different with this pricing with what we've done in the past, right? In the past, we've talked about, hey, you've got one device, you can connect to a couple different things, what have you. This is, you can connect to 10 TPI devices, and you've got 1,000 measures and 50 events that you can do with Flow. You could do a good sized project here with this price.
Well, and you could connect at the same time to the vibration monitors, Alan, an unlimited number from a commercial point of view of all these other devices. I didn't bring our scale in here this time, but if you have weigh scales, et cetera. So yeah, and we don't put any tag count limitations on that Data Hub and the DMZ, and that can move a lot of data.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing incremental with that is the time and effort to implement the protocols, to configure the protocols for each of those, which depending on the protocol is not that much of an additional incremental time.
You saw it live here.
Yeah, I think I mentioned last time with Omni server, we've had instances where we've connected so many devices. The limitation was really on the not Omni server itself, but the virtual environment which we were running it in.
Well, didn't you do a work with some of these in terms of automating changeover on printer setups?
A lot of printers.
That stuff on the bottom of that can?
Here, hold
We
on a
used to
second.
have to do that by hand.
Here, John. Show. There you go. So yeah,
Nice.
think of your Campbell's soup can, the laser print on the bottom, or the jet print on the bottom, or whatever the technology is that prints on the bottom. Can be
It's the
configured.
Liebing printers.
There we
It
go.
is, yeah. And depending on what product you're running, you got to change the various parameters, which were being done by hand. A lot of printers, 20, 30 parameters, time adds up. Getting that tied into a MES ERP system to automate it, it not only saves you the time and efficiency, but now you have something to track against as a measurable outcome.
So that's where your ROI comes in, right?
The fat fingers, right? You get a lot of fat fingers in this potential. And so you have the example that Alan rattled off there is the one that John just kind of showed. So
Cool.
I'll speak to Doug's question. All right. So Doug Miller asked the question: has Flow predictive analytics been tested against rod pump controller, dyno cards? And no, but I would absolutely be in favor of helping test that. And so if you're you want to do it, Doug, let's get Lenny looped in and let's do a test, man. I think it could be impactful.
That'd be cool.
Well, Alan, I'll add, we haven't talked about that, Software Toolbox is Flow's local partner, and we've had a lot of experience in oil and gas, so something we'd be happy to team up with Lenny if it made sense, help him out. Get somebody
I also want to address the data hub, right? So there's a tool here that unfortunately hasn't had the visibility that it really deserves, because the ability to be able to have that data hub, which I think a very good analogy was, a data software toolbox considers themselves like a data plumber, right? They can take that data, bring it in, and do whatever you need to do going out there, but they can do it securely, right? It's not just a matter of MQTT. You can now do the OPC UA securely, point to point, right? And so that's impactful. And then being able to take that OPC UA or any of that data, can transform it to MQTT, transform it to OPC UA, in DMP3, whatever it is, yeah. I'm very excited about learning more about it. I wish I had known about it earlier on in my career, because I feel like I've missed a lot of really clean, smooth implementations of transferring data around, and I instead did it the very hammer and nail type of way.
Well,
Let's talk about a little bit of that data transfer, the hammer and nail, which you think of as being a lot of integration work. Let's talk about just this project real quick and talk about some of the. Okay, so here's what I'm trying to say. Matt and Ian, an end user is watching this. They're saying, "Hey, this fits my use case." How do they know whether or not they've got the skill sets internally of what they need to take what they've just seen and go and do it? What are some of the check marks that you as integrators would say, here's kind of the benchmarks you need to be able to hit to have a successful project on this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we saw a whole lot of stuff here. We saw a lot of moving and shaking between various different layers in the pyramid. There are some considerations, right? So you need to first you have to have your business case, obviously, that yours defined specifically. Be your vibration thing be on the top of the hopper that's feeding the filler, and maybe that's the place that your vibration problem could come in, or whatever other sensor type issue. But identifying those data sources and filling in the sensor gaps, most of the time the sensors exist in the world. It's just getting connection to them, and that's where the software toolbox OmniServer components are so critical and very efficient in being able to get that data. The physical connection and the network on the plant floor. We have a lot of connectivity here already pre-set up. Sometimes there's not that connection to be it the sensor itself or the PLC or whatnot. So taking the steps there to make sure that the physical connection's good. Developing drawings, documentation, all that's very important for posterity and for supporting it long term. How you tie that into the plant control system and so forth are all things that we consider into the SCADA and whatnot. most importantly, as a test plan, though, I think putting this kind of stuff in, there's an opportunity, as we've seen, for some challenges, and those things are things, even if you test it the most, you will always end up finding some sort of issues that you want to eliminate, reduce and manage that risk a ton with that good test plan. And then last but not least, Lenny was talking about all the opportunities and possibilities and the ways that you could leverage the data forward in your organization. That adoption is something that's a human element thing that you have to foster and have people hug the data, if you will, and lead them to the data to be able to see what they can get out of it. It's a very important component. The human element is sometimes we forget about it. There's a lot of cool technical stuff, but at the end of the day, it's going to be people interfacing with technology. How do they get the most out of it? How do they ensure success? So that's those are the things that we see. If you have that ability inside of your facility or inside of your organization to address those issues, that's awesome. That's what we see as the top issues. If you don't, there's always a good integrator out there that can help you, and Advancion's not a bad one if you want to tap us into that as well.
And I think too, that's where you make a decision as the end user, and you say, do I need the service work side of it? Do I need boots on the ground? Do I want someone just checking over my work, or do I just need a couple of recommendations? And one of the things I love about Software Toolbox is that, this is not a sales plug, right? It's just the heart of that organization is that if you're buying product through Software Toolbox is giving you their data plumbers, their pros as guides along the way. So you've got some options there.
But we can guide them through everything they see on the screen here.
Yeah,
all of the technologies, and for integrators, that can be a big risk reducer because we're sharing in it, making sure it all works, and going through what you saw live here, including the bumps, including the documentation error that we had. Remember that?
Yeah, kudos to the team. This has been a live thing online here, but in the real world, we've seen the benefit of working with Software Toolbox and their team on how to configure, set up, make sure the protocols are right, make sure the right backslashes in the right spot with the right carriage return, etc. Those things they're invaluable when you're trying to hit a project schedule.
Yeah, and I started 32 years ago in tech support, and a mentor told me, beware the cabling and the hookups. And having integrators like Advancion who are on site dealing with all that and all the things Matt talked about. Somebody's got to do that. We're bit heads and data plumbers and bartenders.
Another pitfall that I've encountered multiple times over the years is you can't always trust vendors' protocol documentation to be accurate. So having those troubleshooting tools to be able to pinpoint, okay, there's supposed to be a carriage return there, but the documentation didn't tell me there was supposed to be a carriage return there. So you got to account for things like that.
So if I had a device that I wanted to talk to, Kevin, and I didn't have the resources in hand, I could box that thing up, send it to you. You'd build me out the protocol, get it working, and send it back to me.
We could do it that way. We would absolutely start with asking for a make and model. If you've got a protocol document we can take a look at. There's a lot we can do without you having to ship us a device.
Yeah. But if
jump on a screen share.
Not a make and model. If there's not, I'm assuming that you've tackled those situations where it's some older equipment, figured out how to talk to it.
Absolutely. If there's no protocol documentation, depending on the protocol, sometimes we can use a packet snuffer, a Wireshark if it's Ethernet, things of that nature to try to detect what the protocol format is.
You've got something that can talk to it, something to generate those messages, unless it's a device you just turn it on.
If it's not unsolicited, right.
Scales, you turn them on and they start throwing data at you usually.
Yeah.
So
if there's existing legacy software that you're trying to replace that can still send requests to get responses, we use a packet sniffer to see what's it sending.
I just was considering, we got this dishwasher, and now with Flow, I think I can set up some alerts for the wife to say, hey, it hasn't ran in the last 10 hours. Maybe there's
week.
Andy there.
Maybe that's one thing that I want to add to Matt's conversation as well, based on what you just said now, Alan. Yes, I agree with you, Matt. Human aspect is so critical to have adoption of. Don't try to go with these things alone. Have the guy that's been on site for 30 years, that if he listens to a turbine, he says, that turbine is off. That's the guys you need to build in these rules to capture this tribal knowledge that we're going to lose in a few years, because that's the reality, right? Coupled to that, Alan, you've got a pretty good business case there. So I would say, if you're going to look at this type of stuff, make sure you've got the business case sorted out. What are you trying to achieve? Do you want to reduce your scrap? Do you want to reduce your intensity based on unit produced? Make sure you've got a good business case, because if you don't have a business case and you're going to show a guy, if I show a guy this dashboard, if I can share again, if I'm just going to share a guy a dashboard like this, and I'm not addressing his concern or his need, will he ever look at it again tomorrow?
Nope.
100%.
Yeah,
If he doesn't care about load shedding in South Africa, what's the point? So all I'm saying is make sure you've got that business case buy-in, what the guys want to see, create that stickiness, and if you've got that stickiness, it will create so much value when you deliver this type of stuff.
And Doug has properly identified a place that we'd have to censor out. He says, Alan, I think you'll need sensors in the doghouse to monitor temperature.
Well, perfect time to use MQTT.